Hi everyone. So in English, we're going to carry on with our story Astro Girl, which hopefully you remember from what we were doing before the holidays. So I just want you to have a couple of minutes just thinking what has already happened in our story. I'm going to recap it in a second, but here I've put some pictures of Astro and her dad as we started thinking about what they were doing because she wants to be an astronaut. So just have a little recap of these pictures and talk to the people at home and just think, what was Astro doing in order to become an astronaut? So now you've had some thinking time, you might have said that Astrid here is being spun around and around by her dad, because we were saying, weren't we, that astronauts travel round and round the Earth. Also talked about space food, and Astrid was going to squeeze the space food out of the tube, because we talked about space food being in a tube rather than being like what we normally eat out of a bowl, because it would float around everywhere. She's also cooking some space cookies down here. We also said that because there's zero gravity up in space, that Astrid would be floating among the stars, which is a really nice image in our minds, wasn't it? So now I'm going to stop sharing that screen and I'm going to read you a little bit more of our story, okay? And then we're going to use this to do some writing today. So I'm going to go from the beginning, just for the sheer fact that I've really liked this story and I haven't read it since before the holidays. So hopefully you can see what I'm reading at home as well. Astrid had loved the stars and space ever since she could remember. And here she is, look, with her telescope, looking outside at the stars. I want to be an astronaut, Astrid told her best friend Jake as they gazed up to the stars. You remember when you're gazing at something, you're looking at it. So she was staring up at the stars. Will you bring me an asteroid when you come back from space? Jake asked. Of course I will, Jakey. So Astrid was thinking about what she wants to be when she grows up. I want to be an astronaut, Astrid said at breakfast. Are you sure? Papa asked. You'll have to go round and round the Earth in your spaceship. He swung her around. I can do that, Astrid giggled. What about eating food out of a tube or a packet every single day? I can do that, said Astrid, munching on a cereal bar. Okay, Astro Girl, you'll also have to get used to near zero gravity. Papa threw her up in the air. So that means, remember that we said she wouldn't be just walking like we do on planet Earth. She'd be floating all around in space. And we had a little discussion, didn't we, about the funny feeling that would be like. I can do that all day long, laughed Astrid. She does look like she's having lots of fun being thrown up in the air. What about all the science experiments, asked Papa. Could you do those, my star princess? Easy peasy, said Astrid, as they made her favourite cookies. And look, they've even made them in the shape of a rocket. Will a space cadet like you be able to sleep on your own among the stars? Papa asked. I think that will be very hard, but I'll do it, Astrid said. At last, it was the day that they were going to fetch Mama in the car. Astrid wore her favourite space t-shirt. And if you look at it closely here in the picture, you can see it's got another rocket on it. She definitely loves space, doesn't she? At the airbase, they moved to the front of the crowd, just in time for the doors to open. And out walked 3 people. Ooh, I wonder who these people could be. I'm going to stop there. And I'm going to go back to our work that I want us to do today. So, I don't know about you, but I'm intrigued to find out who these people are. So she's just walked up to the door at the airbase and out have walked 3 people. But we don't really know anything about them. We don't know who they are or where they've been or how long they've been there for. I feel like I've got so many questions to ask. So I wondered today if our job could be to ask some questions about who these figures might be or who these people might be. And I've got out here to help us this question hand, which I know we've seen before. So around our fingers and our thumbs on our hands, we've got some question words that we might want to use to start thinking about generating some questions to ask about these figures. So on the right hand side, you can see that we've got what, when, why, where, who, and which. So we might want to start one of our questions with these words. We've also got could, should, would, is, does, or how. So we might need to think about which hand or even both hands we want to use to generate some questions from. So for example, you might be using where off this question hand. So where have the people been? Or who down here, I definitely want to know who the people are. So start thinking about that because we're going to be generating some questions. Before we do that though, I just want us just to have a little recap on what we need to do to make sure our questions are punctuated correctly. Okay, so we have had a little look at this before and I've got an example question on the board for us. So I'll just have a go at reading that to you now. It says, where have the people been? And at the start of our sentence, which I'm just going to highlight with my lovely highlighter, hopefully, here. So the first word here is where, okay? And if I look down here on my hand mat as well, my question hand, I've got the question word, where. So our question words, when we're writing questions, comes at the beginning of our question. So the first word needs to be one of these words off the hands below. And this one I've chosen where. But you might use a different question word, which we'll have a look at in a second. We need to make sure that all the words are in that sentence so that it makes sense. For example, we couldn't have where have been, okay, because we haven't asked who the people are. So we need to be saying where have the people been so that we've got a subject in that sentence. So I need to make sure as well that all my words are in this question. But right at the end of my question, I've got a different type of punctuation, which we have looked at briefly. And some sentences have full stops, which we've learned about. But this here is a question mark. And hopefully you'll remember that. And remember, we curve it round, down, and a dot. Okay, so hopefully you can have a little practice at doing some question marks. You might even want to just have a little practice now of doing that in the air. So if you get your finger and you curve it round, down, and a dot. Okay, curve it round, down, and a dot. Question marks can be a bit tricky to start with. So we have to today make sure that we've got our question word at the beginning, our question mark at the end, and all the words are in the question that we want them to be there. Okay. So now we know what needs to be in our question. I want us to have a little think about what our questions could be that we want to ask about these mysterious people, these mysterious shadows. We don't really know much about them. I've got 2 levels of work for you today, and I'm going to start by showing you this one. All these resources, when I finish the lesson, you can either pause on this video to use, but I've also updated the website and put the sheets on there for you to use as well. So you'll be able to access all of these at home. So here I've got a question frame to help us. So I'm going to choose one of my words off my hand. And I'm going to try and finish my question correctly. So here I've got are the people. I need a question word at the front. It says are the people. Would I use the question word when? When are the people? Now, that doesn't make sense because when is asking me a time. Why are the people? I could say that if I was going to ask a question and add a verb into it. So why are the people there, or why are the people coming out of the plane? So I'd need to add a bit more information there, but I could do it. Which one best fits? I think I've found it. I'm going to use this one here. So this question word is who. So if I use that to write my question, I'd be saying who are the people. Can you say that with me? Who are the people? Right, I'm going to have a go at writing that on my board. So my question word comes first. So I'm going to write who are the. Let me think how I spell the. It's a tricky word, so it's a T, H, and an E. Who are the? I'm going to use the spelling of people from here. People. Right. I've got all the words. Let me check. Who are the people? Got my question word at the start. Whoops, I didn't do a capital letter there, so I need to change that to a capital letter. And what did we say comes at the end? Let me check our question mark. So remember, we go round, down, and dot. So there's my first question that I could ask. We've also got on here, if you wanted to use these to scaffold your questions, could be, what are the shadows? Okay, so I quite like the word shadows because we didn't really know whether they were people or whether they were the shadows coming out from the airbase. We might want to be saying, what are the shadows coming out? Okay. So have a little think on here about what questions you want to be generating. I'm just going to give you a couple of seconds just to have a think about what you might write next. Fab. So down here, I've got two other options that you might want to use to write your questions. So we might have, where is the rocket? Because in the picture, we don't actually see where it is. Okay, or we might have, how, off those other question hands, how did the people travel? Okay, so here are just some ideas to help scaffold your questions if you need it. If you think I want to have a go at generating my own ideas and my own questions, then I've got some keywords here that you might want to use. So this is my bit of my challenge here. What new vocabulary can you use in your questions? So the first word I've got down here is an airbase. Okay, so an airbase is where your transport, such as your rockets, are based. Okay, so that's where it's sort of like their home, a bit like an airport. Here I've got a picture of an astronaut. So you might want to use the word astronaut in your question. Make sure you've got one of these question words. Here we've got some planets. We've got some photographs, a spacesuit, a helmet, a rocket, and expedition. Okay, an expedition means a journey or something that you're traveling on. So I'm going to have a little think now. So I'm not going to use the communicate and print frames, but I might want to use one of these words to write one of my questions. So I'm going to go back and have a little look at my question hands and think which one I could use. I'm going to use how, I think. I'm going to use how, and I want to challenge myself by using the word expedition. Okay, expedition, so journey. And I think I'm going to write, how long was the expedition? So I need to make sure my question word is first. How long, let me sound out long, how long was the expedition? That's one of my new words. I'm going to take it off my word map. How long was the expedition? And don't forget, question mark comes at the end. So that's one question. I think today you can challenge yourselves and write at least 4 questions. So I'm going to try and think of 2 more here. So I've used how. I'm going to try and use a different question word. So I'm going to circle off the ones I've already used so I know not to do it again. So I've used how. I might use, I'm going to use one of my other new words from today, and I'm going to use the question word where, and I'm going to use airbase. So I'm going to say, where is the airbase? Where is the airbase? Great. You check that's right. Where is the airbase? Oops, put a full stop instead of a question there. Make sure we're punctuating that correctly. And my last one then, I might use the question word why and use helmet and spacesuit. I think I'm going to use that together, both of those words. So I might say, why are the figures wearing helmets and spacesuits? That's a tricky one. Let me check that. Why are the figures wearing helmet? Let me sound out helmet. It does have an I sound in it, but it's a bit of a tricky word, and the letter E actually makes that sound. So if you spell helmet today, make sure you can have a go at spelling it like that. So why are the figures wearing helmets and space suits? And don't forget what comes at the end, a question mark. So they're my 3 questions, and I want you to have a go at doing 4 today. See if you can challenge yourself. I'm just going to go through and just make sure that I've got all the elements that we talked about. So we need a question word at the start. So here, how long was the expedition? So I've got how here. I've written all the words. How long was the expedition? Yep. And I've got a question mark at the end. Correct. Where? There's my question word. Is the air-based? My question word. And my question mark is at the end. Why is at the beginning for my question word, and at the end I've got my question mark again. And I've definitely done my challenge and used some new vocabulary today, because I've got airbase, I've got expedition, I've got helmets and spacesuits. I think I've done very well on making sure that I've met all the things that I need to do today. I'm looking forward to seeing all the questions that you write. And remember, you can use all the communicate and print scaffolds if you need to. Okay, I'll pop those on a sheet for you to use. But if not, then I've got some key vocabulary and these key question words for you to use at home. Hopefully you can write at least 4 questions today. So make sure you send them across to us so we can see how you've done. See you tomorrow.